Good morning, everybody. We will start the session shortly, but first, a couple of housekeeping matters. We humbly request that you keep your video and audio off during the session. We will very much appreciate your support in this. We strive to create open communication and welcome comments, thoughts, and questions today. We ask that you please type these into the chat function in Zoom, and we'll collate these and make sure that we address them over the course of today, if not live here, then by email. If you have any technical or other issues, please enter this into the chat in Zoom, and we will be able to reach out and support you on this. And just a reminder today that our session will be recorded and made available on the Frontier SI website. So if you have any colleagues that didn't get the chance to register for today's event, they can still view the recording, which will be up online later today. My name is Roshni Sharma, and I'm a project manager and geospatial analyst with Frontier SI. I live in a community that's situated on the lands of the Darug and Tharawal First Nations people, and I'm thankful for the nourishment, sustenance, and connection to place and space that this land brings me and the peoples that I live, work, and play with. I respectfully recognize that this land was never ceded, and that our lifestyles in today's world take much and give back little to the country which gives us life. I also recognize the wounds that colonization has given to the First Nations people across these lands, and the importance of respecting culture and connection to country. I am joined today by my colleague Chris Blackstock from Frontier SI, and am very excited to introduce you to Noel Dwyer, Deputy Chief Engineer, Hydraulics Design and Spatial with the Department of Transport and Main Roads. Welcome, Noel.
Thank you, Roshni. Thank you for that lovely introduction. Good morning, everybody. I'm delighted to be with you today. I'll just give a quick introduction and then hand back to Roshni, but I want to highlight the fact that this TMR Spatial Labs is a really important part of our spatial futures 4-year technology plan. And that really supports TMR's overall ability to deliver spatial data and capability to support TMR's vision, which is creating a single integrated transport network accessible to everyone. So to deliver this vision, we require a really robust and a whole range of data and capability to support not just the planning, design, construction and maintenance of transport assets, but also the operations and disposal of the assets as well. Clearly, automation is going to be a part of that, automation of data creation, and also the quality assurance side of data management will play a huge role. So TMR has a significant and growing range of data collection over the many years, particularly remote sense data, things like aerial photography, LiDAR, digital video road, ground-based LiDAR, and also recently drones too. So I guess we see TMR Spatial Labs is really aiming to improve our understanding of artificial intelligence and machine learning and how that can be applied to this remote sensing data that's we're building terabytes of. So we really need the tools to help manage that range of data for the transport network, not just now, but into the future, particularly as we get into connected and automated vehicles and smart infrastructure as well. So understanding how AI and machine learning can be used with remote sensing is kind of also help us to plan for the remote sense data we invest in now, how we store it and manage it. So we're really excited to see what's plausible and possible and available through industry and academia. And I'm personally looking forward to watching the projects progress under the TMR Spatial Labs program. And so enjoy the presentation. I'll hand back to Roshni. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Noel. Very much appreciate your kind words and beautiful introduction to the project. I'd now like to hand over to Justin White, Principal Advisor from TMR. Welcome, Justin.
Thanks, Roshni. So, as Roshni mentioned, I'm Principal Advisor. I'm also Project Manager of this project within TMR. And it is a very exciting project to be part of. And I would like everyone to watch the video to get an idea of context of TMR, and then I'll come back and talk to you a bit more.
you are, mate. Took the time. Where'd you get this vest from? Not yours, is it? Take it back.
Over to you, Justin.
Thanks. So today's session is to help anyone interested in being involved in TMR Spatial Labs understand the drivers behind the program and ensure you understand how to apply. So we have to that end, we have a simple agenda. We'll just be doing an introduction to TMR, and then Chris will introduce Frontier SI, and Roshni will go through the Spatial Labs overview and the challenge topics. And that should leave plenty of time to answer any questions that you may have. So as you saw in the video, TMR is responsible for a lot of infrastructure, and as Noel mentioned, that includes the planning, design, building, maintaining, operating and decommissioning of infrastructure, but also systems for supporting that. So we have responsibility for 33,000 kilometres of road, I think was the number in the video, and that there is about 110,000 kilometres of road in Queensland. So there's a significant amount of roads that we are not the owners and operators of, but we also have responsibility for those roads as well in some ways, such as for road safety. So we aim to create a single integrated transport network accessible to everyone across all of those roads in Queensland. And this is not possible without excellent data and the ability to communicate that data to the road users or the transport users across the network. As we all know, that technology continues to rapidly advance. So in the transport field, this is no exception, and we have a significant opportunity within TMR to harness technology to improve the way that we facilitate movement throughout Queensland. We already do some computer vision data extraction within TMR, and we have also engaged other organisations to do some machine learning to extract information. And so we're aware of some of the possibilities of AI and machine learning. And it was with this in mind that this project was created, or that the TMR Spatial Labs was created to apply artificial intelligence machine learning to remotely sense data to see what intelligence we can extract. And I had a few simple questions when setting this up, which were, will using multiple data types deliver better results than just using images, for instance? Can we use high resolution remotely sensed data to train, or with low resolution remotely sensed data to create whole of state data sets, as opposed to only being able to do a detailed data set in the southeast corner, for instance? Where should we invest when we're collecting remotely sensed data? Is our current investment appropriate? And what's out there that we don't know, the unknown unknowns, as Donald Rumsfeld would have said. So what's out there, what sensors are available, and what can we do with them? So we're working with Frontier SI to engage industry and academia, to help us understand where we should focus our attention, what we can do in the short term, and what we should be looking forward to in the longer term as well. So that's my introduction to TMR, and I look forward to answering any questions you have later on. But for now, it's over to Chris to tell you a bit about Frontier SI.
Thanks, Justin. So yeah, just a little background on Frontier for those who don't know. We are a partner-based not-for-profit organisation, previously known as the CRC for Spatial Information, or CRCSI, that exists to drive greater impact, adoption and value from spatial and more space-based data, technology and innovation. To do this, we partner with government, industry, academia to drive innovation and cutting-edge improvements across capabilities including positioning, analytics. Sorry, I'll let a few more people in. Positioning, analytics, spatial data infrastructure, digital twins, Earth observation data, and more AI and machine learning. So our role in this project is very much along those lines. We'll be running this project from a sort of procedural perspective. We will be sort of evaluating the proposals that come in and working with all of the projects that get selected, sort of project managing them as they go through the process to make sure that what comes out of this is of the greatest value to TMR. So we'll definitely be that sort of support as we go through running this and yeah, making sure that we align really well and making sure that we gain the greatest value out of this and that the selected projects provide value to TMR in a way that can be then accelerated into the future as well and built on. So thank you all for joining us. I'll pass back to Rosh to go through the core of this project and what to expect.
Thanks very much, Chris. So the vision of TMR Spatial Labs is something that we have put a lot of time thinking about, and we're really excited about, because this is what brings together the innovation and change and really aligns to help us to create something that's going to have impact. Of Transport and Main Roads is delivering the Spatial Labs 2022 project. Sorry, Frontier SI is delivering it for TMR. And what we're really hoping to do is harness AI, transportation, and spatial analytics industry capability and research to identify innovative data solutions to support the delivery of a single integrated transport network accessible to everybody. The TMR Spatial Labs program is focused on collaboration to explore novel approaches to using AI ML for automated imagery analysis and product generation, including object classification, understanding what's possible with high-resolution data to deliver a smart network, many other things. We are hoping to identify innovative solutions to allow TMR to access timely, efficient, accurate and sustainable data and insights to again support that statewide planning and decision making and enable a future-focused, smart, connected and autonomous infrastructure network and vehicles. So I will run through some of the challenge questions a little later on in today's information webinar, and I'd ask that if you do have any questions along the way, please do feel free to pop them into the chat now. And here we go. So the actual logistics of how the Spatial Labs program will go is that we have 4 $50,000 projects available. These will each be 3 to 4 months in length. 2 of them will be in the first half of 2022, aiming to wrap up by around just after financial year ends, and then 2 in the second half of 2022. So as I've mentioned, TMR Spatial Labs will harness current and emerging AI/ML capabilities to extract knowledge from airborne, drone, and vehicle-mounted remotely sensed data to support key current and future Queensland transport use cases. Through looking at these new technologies and the acceleration of AI/ML capabilities and spatial analytics, we're hoping that we can tap into the network of entrepreneurs, SMEs, and larger corporations across Queensland, as well as the rest of Australia in the transport, space, and spatial sectors. So I'll now hand over to Chris, my colleague, who will talk about what we're really seeking in the proposals, what's in it for you, and what sort of data we're providing. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Rosh. Okay, so this is probably the sort of the core things you guys are looking for today. So what are we really looking for in these proposals? I think what's going to help get this across the line is a really clear statement of what you're trying to achieve. Those proposal objectives, including that description of timeframe, phases, deliverables, effectively just making it really clear that you understand the question, you understand the topic and what TMR is trying to get out of that, and that you put forward a really, sorry, more people joining, put forward a sort of realistic, practical approach, methodology, timeframes, phases, that we have faith that you'll be able to deliver. Because that's effectively, as we go through this, we'll be evaluating all those proposals coming in and really want to target in to make sure that we understand that what comes out of this project has that potential path to operational use, immediate value potentially for TMR, but also that potential for future work. We also want to see that you have thought about and include some descriptions about how you plan to work with TMR, including the level of input you require from TMR, what time, effort, and also how you plan to use the data, what data you're going to use, whether it's just the TMR or whether you're bringing any of your own data, that sort of thing as well. And that provision of future steps for the next step after this can't go wrong. If you are setting up a project that to demonstrate a particular capability, demonstrate what's possible, we all understand this is just a small project. So what can happen next? So we do want to hear that, and that's definitely going to go into what gets selected from these proposals. What has the best potential to deliver value to TMR in the future? So I think that's going to be a real sort of key thing that we're trying to get out of these proposals, and focusing that and noticing that it is focusing on just a proof of concept, a demonstrator. It could be capabilities you already provide, could be research you already have, and developed whatever you can do within that sort of 50K range. But it's not looking at operational testing. It's not looking at sort of implementing those sort of pieces. They can be included in what could be a next step. But here we're just really sort of demonstrating what's possible and how what you can do can address these key questions from TMR's perspective. Next slide. Thanks, Rosh. So what's in it for you is a really key part of this as well. The funding to demonstrate this technology in a TMR context puts you in front of TMR. It allows you to that sort of paid BD opportunity and the opportunity to demonstrate and present your current capabilities and to access specific TMR data. So to see what data they have, they've been compiling quite a bit of data. And I think few people have reached out to access that data. I think the next slide goes into that a bit more, but that is an opportunity for you all as you frame up your proposal. If you want to see samples of what data is available, what data you'll be able to work with from TMR's perspective, please reach out to Roshni, to the TMR Labs email, and we'll be able to connect you through to a portal to have a look at that data to make sure what you're planning to do is realistic within the frames of what TMR is providing. And Frontier SI's perspective as well will be sort of guiding the successful projects as they go through as well. We have a bit of a hands-on sort of project management approach just to make sure that we have sort of good visibility into TMR as to what you guys are developing and showing, not just that final presentation, but also you can bounce ideas and get advice from us as well. Frontier has run these innovation labs for federal government and international organisations as well previously. So we've got this down to a pretty good art and have a pretty good understanding of what is going to be successful coming out of this. One other piece we haven't specifically got a dot point about, this is a demonstrator of your technology, your tools, your approaches. From an IP perspective, the only IP that TMR will own at the end of this is that report, that presentation, not what you develop, not your own data, not your own tools, methodologies, those sort of things that you bring to the project. That all maintains and is retained as your own IP. But what gets provided to TMR to take away is that report at the end, any data that you might extract that they can then use or test to see how effective, how good that data is. That would be definitely seen as a positive. And that presentation, so hopefully provide a good demonstration of what's possible. Next slide, thanks Rosh. And the provided data is pretty important here as well. So TMR has provided a whole range of data. I think the information sheet provided has a bit of a list, but it does include drone captured data, visual, hyperspec, thermal, LiDAR data from multiple sort of sensors, georeferenced images, this video road captured from on top of a vehicle at 7 different angles, as well as the sort of more readily available aerial photography and satellite imagery that is critical to a couple of the challenge questions about how you can scale up some of these AI type capabilities. And it's important to note that particularly for challenge question 4, you are welcome to bring additional data sets. If you have other data sets that can bring value to, I think particularly challenge 4 is sort of asking about what else is possible. Kirk's asked, yes, DVR, digital video road, yeah. That's the data captured from the different angles on top of a vehicle. Awesome. So I think that's from me, and I think Rosh now is going to go through the challenge questions, and then we'll be able to open it up for questions from the floor. So Roshni.
Thank you very much, Chris. And so when we, on the website, we have available a document that lists these challenge questions in much more detail. I would now like to briefly run through each of the 4 challenge questions here to let you know what we're really hoping to understand from each of them, keeping in mind that we're open also to thinking outside the box. If there is an idea that you have that relates to the vision and purpose of the project, but doesn't necessarily align with a single challenge question, or might bring together more than one challenge question, we still really want to hear from you. And so challenge topic 1 is, how many can you get? Here, what we're really looking to understand is what you feel can be derived from the data that TMR has for the Mount Cotton area. Again, as a reminder, if you would like to have a look at some of this data to help you prepare your proposal submission, please do send me an email at rsharma@frontiersi.com.au and I can help to provide you with access for this. So there is a suite of data types and amounts available, and we're seeking your support to help us to identify what's possible to extract and derive from it. To add depth to this, we're seeking your thoughts on what are the possibilities. With the broader context of facilitating a smart road network and supporting autonomous vehicles, we really want to know what the low-hanging fruits are, what the critical derivative products are that will facilitate these, and how can all of this be created? What are the challenges? What are the opportunities? What are the barriers? What can be done? And not only that, but how many of these can you get? There's a couple of examples in the blue box on the right-hand half of the screen there. These are also available in the challenge document. Challenge topic 2, to infinity and beyond. So in challenge question 1, we looked at what can be done with the high resolution data and different types of data available within the challenge area around Mount Cotton. Here, what we really want you to think about in challenge topic 2 is what insights can be gained from that area around Mount Cotton and then applied to other areas where data is not necessarily available in as much high resolution. How can we create some of the similar sorts of derivative products about what's on the road, what's around the road, what's in the road corridor to help us to extend not only sort of within the Southeast Queensland area, but thinking about other parts of the state in, where there may not be as much data available or as high resolution data. What can be done there? Challenge topic 3, Viva la resolution. Here, what we're really looking to understand is, as we scale up again towards that vision of a single integrated road network accessible to everybody and facilitating a smart road network, we're going to have many pockets of data that are at various resolutions, that are derivative products that have been created from source imagery that might vary temporally. So we'll really need to be able to identify what are the challenges in doing this and how are we able to maximize the efficiencies along the way? How are we able to identify what some of the barriers might be to be able to, for example, facilitate safety for autonomous vehicles in both urban and rural environments? This is a slightly more conceptual problem than challenge questions 1 or 2, and this might be a target area for organizations or businesses that perhaps specialize much more in the AI/ML space. Lastly, challenge question 4, seeing in the dark. Here, what we're hoping to really dig into is, what are some of the non-visual remotely sensed data that can be used to identify early warnings of problems that might come along? As we are all very aware, we're currently seeing a lot of flooding damage being caused in Queensland as a result of La Nina. Previously, in other parts of the state, as well as Queensland, there have been horrific bushfires. So natural disasters have the potential to very rapidly damage or cause degradation in road assets. How are we able to understand where this damage might occur, detect it early, and be able to be then in a good position to be proactive rather than reactive in the maintenance and upkeep and planning for our road network so that we're able to respond effectively? This question in particular, as was mentioned previously, we're very open to you bringing your own data if that is something that you have the capability to do. And of course, we have a whole suite of non-visual data, multispectral, hyperspectral, thermal, LiDAR, point cloud, radar, and other data available for the Mount Cotton area that we would love for you to be able to use here. And so I'll now pass over to Chris again to walk us through the timeline of how the challenge questions and the project will occur over coming months. And following that, we would like to open up for question and answer. So please get ready to ask your questions. That's what we'd love to hear from you today.
Thanks, Roshni. So yeah, what's next? So next Friday, April the 8th, is the proposal submission deadline. So that's pretty, and Kurt's just asked, yeah, is the slide deck going to be supplied? I assume so, yeah, although I think stop answering those. But yeah, effectively, next Friday is when proposal submissions will be closed. We'll be evaluating and shortlisting those pretty quickly. If we have any questions for follow-up, I'm sure that will happen in that week following. But we'll be definitely looking to select the successful applicants for all 4 projects within the next week or 2. After that submission deadline, noting that we'll be selecting the 4 projects. However, only 2 of those will be commencing pretty much straight away, and hoping to have the bulk of those finished by the end of financial year. So that's that second piece here. Late April, we'll start contracting and looking to start those round 1 projects pretty quickly. So you can still get the bulk of those done before the end of financial year, as we have some deliverables that we need to provide to TMR to show the progress. And those the round 1 projects are still that sort of 3-month sort of time frame, and formally wrapping up probably into July. Then the round 2 projects, the last 2 projects will be starting sometime after July. And again, 3 to 4 month timeline, trying to finish those probably by about October, and we'll have sort of formal presentations. There might be some additional sort of activities presenting or sort of finally wrapping up in October, November. So I think we'll probably just go straight to questions now, Roshni, on the next slide, and open it up for anything you want to ask to Roshni, myself, or Justin.
Please feel free to either unmute yourself and ask your question. If you're able to raise your hand, we're happy to see your questions that way too, and also to pop them straight into the chat. So Chris,
hi, Carlos Davis here.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Thank you. How are you?
Thanks. I don't know if I missed that statement earlier in the talk or not, but how much funding is available for the applicants, for the successful applicants?
Absolutely. We have 4 projects available. Each of those is $50,000.
Okay, thank you.
Very welcome. And as per the question that was asked in the chat as well, we'll make this slide deck available as well as a recording of this session on the Frontier SI website this afternoon. So if there is anything that you'd like to go back and listen to or check, you're very welcome to do that. But we are very, very happy to answer your questions now as well.
And just while you're thinking of questions, I thought I might give you a little bit more insight into my convoluted thinking and what I would like to see, I guess. So I guess from TMR's perspective, we are looking for maximizing return on our investment. So if you can solve all of our problems by collecting drone data over all of Queensland, that's probably not going to be something we can do. So think about the implications, the cost implications for TMR in proposals that you're putting forward, and keep in mind that, you know, we're a government department, and unless we're actually building some significant piece of infrastructure, we don't have a lot of money to play with. So it's really about maximizing the investment that we do have and working out how we can best do that. So yeah, I'm really interested to see what can come out of it, but also just temper that with it's got to be a realistic thing that we can do into the future.
And as mentioned as well, we are really happy to provide you with access to some of the data, because we understand that that will obviously help you to get a gauge for what's possible. So if you are interested in getting access to that, please send me an email. I'm just popping my email address into the chat here, and I'll be very happy to tee up that for you.
And Kirk, no, it's not one project per challenge question. We just wanted the challenge questions as a prompt. In fact, if you can answer something that isn't in one of those challenge questions, but you think it's useful, go ahead, put in the proposal. We just want to get some idea of what's possible, and those are ideas as a starting point. Is there any training data available? This is a good question. The short answer is no. I mean, yes, we do have training data that we've done for sign capture, where we've done some work in-house, but given that we've already done the training and we've already applied that to the problem, it's not really something that we want to do again, or we need someone else to do. So these are things that we're looking, we're looking to do new and different. So unfortunately, no, we have not trained the data yet. Is there a map or outline of the study area in Mount Cotton? Yes. If you Google the RACQ Mobility Centre, it will take you to a whole lot of information about the Mobility Centre, which will include a map, and also, obviously, your favourite map provider will provide you with images over that area as well. Or you can just get our data, which also includes aerial images over that area.
That's a great question, Lynn, about the preferred projection datum for the outputs. We would like to work in GDA 2020 for this project.
Yeah, the only other thing I would say to that is, yes, there is a preferred projection datum for the outputs. However, because this is a proof of concept and demonstration capability, and some of the people involved may not be as spatially aware as others, it's okay if we don't have that, as long as we can see a path to having, spatial enablement in the future, and using GDA 2020, as TMR is a GDA 2020 house. That's where we want to be, but it's there's a bit more flexibility in a proof of concept.
And about the linear cross-reference to a linear reference system, that would be the overall broader vision, yes. So if, as Justin mentioned, if we can see a pathway to that, then that's great. That will be a plus. I should have prepared some elevator music.
I think one other, just to fill the time, the quick comment about one of the challenge questions, particularly challenge question 3. We've definitely seen these as quite effective when we've done previous labs project where it is a bit more of a research-based question. So it's definitely sort of framed for a university type piece where, particularly say challenge question 1, challenge question 2 are looking at what data can you extract from high resolution data, and then how can you use that high resolution data to train up lower resolution data to extract that same information. Where question 3 might naturally fall sort of later on in the year and might actually be able to use some of the outputs from some of those previous projects potentially to really look at how good is that data. So it's just another way to think of that challenge question 3. What is that quantitative analysis? How good is that data coming out of the high resolution, but also coming out of that trained up lower resolution data? And I think that comes back to one of Justin's thoughts, which is sort of, it's a good thing to keep having a think about underlined, where TMR wants to be able to leverage data that's coming in to improve their understanding of the road, what's around the road, to drive decision-making, improve some of their smart networks, autonomous vehicles, connected vehicles, sort of use cases down the track. But they're not going to run drones over the state. So if you think about that, they might have drone flights over areas where there are emergencies, or they might do around a construction site or when they're first building. So that's where, if you think about it, you might be able to use drone data here and there to train up data that can then be applied, to train up the models that can then be applied to lower resolution that could be done, leveraged right across a much wider range of roads. So having a think about exactly sort of what they're looking for, and that's where how challenge question 1 and 2 may actually fit together quite nicely, to do that first piece and then to train it up to look at how you could then apply that to lower resolution imagery.
Lynn's just added another question there about around multiple stakeholder use or solutions for TMR use only. The short version of that is of course, we're interested in multiple stakeholder use as long as the TMR use is there. So we are keen to see an outcome for TMR, and with that, if we can also get outcomes for other people as well, we're all for that. But yeah, it is primarily a TMR project and TMR use cases.
And I have just popped into the chat that for anyone who is interested in putting forward a proposal, the proposal response template is available on the website, which is frontiersi.com.au/TMR labs. That template contains a brief structure that you'll just need to respond to, and the deadline is Friday, the 8th of April, 5 p.m. AEST.
So I did mention that we have done some training data. It's not necessarily available. I certainly can't promise it's available at this point. The data that we have done training on, or the images that we've done training on were from our DVR road capture, which is ground-based images, and we've done signage and some signage, selected signage, speed signage, for instance, and then a few other bits and pieces. And that is the limit of what we've done there. In terms of ground truth assessment to compare against, that's something we can talk about. So it depends on which aspect of the data you're talking about. We have a project called the Cooperative and Automated Vehicle Initiative, and it has data sets in the southeast corner and along Bruce Highway, some of which has been ground truthed, and we could get access to do comparisons against. So yeah, some of that is available. Again, given that we don't know exactly what's going to come in, I have not organised for every possible option of data availability for the project, but yeah, we can arrange not only further remote sensing data, but also ground truth data available as depending on the projects that are nominated. So yeah, and providing SME help to create the right training data. We can do that, yeah, and again, it all depends on what it is that we're trying to do, but I can arrange for SME help to do that, yes.
There's a great question. Sorry, Justin, go for it.
Is the focus on the rural road network or urban only? No, it's not on either, really. So TMR mainly, I don't know, most of the roads in the urban area are not TMR roads, but the ones that are main thoroughfares. So they're very important, and they're also very heavily used. So we are very interested in urban roads. We are also very interested in rural roads. So there is no preference there.
So Lam, I hope I pronounced your name right there. Of the 4 challenge topics, we're very happy for any of them to be addressed in the first round. There's complete openness there around what will be selected. The selection criteria will be, there's a brief outline of that in the document available on the website, but it's based on the merit of the quality of the application. Some of the So I guess it might, in theory, be slightly easier for challenge questions 1 or 2 in terms of the short turnaround time. However, it really comes down to the quality of the application, alignment with TMR values and vision and purpose, and what's put forward. So we want to remain equitable in how we assess all of the applications that come through, no matter which challenge topic is put forward. Who else has questions? Is there anything you'd like to ask us about potential things that might not be covered in the challenge questions that could be interesting to look at, or about the data itself, about what we're really hoping to achieve with the project, or what might flow on from there? We're really happy for you to raise your questions with us here. Great question, Lynn. The question is about, we mentioned LiDAR data. What outcomes would we be looking for with the use of LiDAR data?
That's kind of open. So we collect a lot of LiDAR data for our planning purposes usually, or for as constructed type surveying purposes. So we collect LiDAR data, both aerial or drone-based and ground-based, and so we have it there. And it's kind of a case of, we collect all this data and we use it once, and there's got to be other uses for it. One of the thinking behind that was, surely with LiDAR and imagery, the outcome you will get positionally more, you'll get a more accurate outcome potentially. In terms of barriers, you should be able to get 3D, you should be able to get the height of the barrier, the thickness of the barrier, all those kinds of bits and pieces of information. In terms of vegetation near the road, LiDAR seems to me to be a very useful tool for looking at that. Drainage as well. So I guess there's a lot of opportunity there with LiDAR. I don't have any, well, I guess I do have preconceived ideas there, but I don't really mind what comes out of it. And if that's not a focus of anyone's attention, that's okay too. It's just one of the options that we have, and that we tend to have, we tend to collect a fair bit of it around the network for a variety of reasons. So it's just interesting for us to look at how we can reuse it. We can provide a road centerline geometry. If you can make it better, that would be great, because we know that it's good and we know that it's bad, but we can't tell you where it's good or where it's bad. So yeah, we can provide a road center geometry. Actually, I'll have to think about that for Mount Cotton. We can do it. It's just whether we have one lying around for Mount Cotton. Yes. Yeah, it's raw. It's raw data. We can give you absolutely raw data, or we can give you semi-processed data. They have not been annotated for training AI models at all. So raw data is a relative thing. We can go all the way back to what came from the drone if you really want, but in most cases they have been corrected, and we've used ground control to make sure that they're positionally accurate and all those kinds of things. So yes, raw is relative, but certainly they haven't been annotated for training.
So for anyone listening in on the recording, the question was the data that that has been collected, it's raw data, and it was about whether that's been annotated for training AI models.
One of the surveyors who did some drone work was just saying he'll get me a centerline of Mount Cotton, not a problem. So all good.
Speedy responses. That's great. So I will also add that in Appendix B of the proposal information document available on the website, there is also a list of target-derived data products. That list is by no means exhaustive. If there are other things about the road surface and markings, intersection design and markings, road corridor assessment and environment, there are definitely many other possibilities, and we'd love to hear, as part of proposals, what you think is possible. If you go to the website, which is frontiersi.com.au/TMR Labs, you'll be able to see the proposal information document as well as the proposal response template. They're both available to download there. And within their proposal information document, you'll be able to see the summary of each challenge question, as well as a bit of information about the data, the broader vision of the project, etc.
James asked about challenge question 4, and unfortunately we do not have a lot of time series data for the challenge 4, so for thermal or for multispectral. We do have, I'm just thinking, with LiDAR, there may be some time series in some locations. That's a little bit problematic because, again, we don't usually collect it for that purpose. It's a one-off for a project purpose. And whereas with, of course, the aerial imagery, sure, we've got plenty of time series for that. So yeah, that for time series things, that's probably going to be something we'd need to work out where we could get the data from, or whether we can collect data over time. One of the other problems is a lot of the future issues. These things don't happen week to week. Although, given the flooding we've had, that actually is a little bit different at the moment. But generally speaking, these changes don't happen week to week. They take years to see cracks develop or ruts develop and things like that. So yeah, that is a challenge, I grant you. I'm not sure how we solve that.
So any last questions, please do pop them into the chat and let us know. We'll respond to them. And while we're waiting for any final questions, Justin will give us a little bit of a final wrap up around the vision of the project. So over to you, Justin.
Yeah, look, I just want to thank everyone for your interest and for your time today. So, and I want to reiterate that although this is a small program, especially by TMR standards, it has the potential to change the way we do business. So it has a huge opportunity there for TMR, and hopefully for you as well. You can see that opportunity, and we look forward to working with you on this important journey towards the future of transport, which I think we can all agree is essential for all of us. So we want to get it right.
So please do feel free to email us at any time. If you've got any questions, you can see the website on screen, and I've just popped it into the chat, frontiersi.com.au/TMR Labs. And you can also email us at tmrlabs@frontiersi.com.au. We'll be very happy to connect you up with any data, answer any questions you might have. And we thoroughly look forward to seeing your proposals, because we are so excited. This project has the potential to really create impact, and, as Justin said, change the way that we consider how we work on transport. So thank you for coming today, and yeah, it's really exciting to work with you.
Thank you, everyone.